I had no doubt that I could do something, but what and how? I had no contacts and I believed in nothing. And the obsession with my identity, which I had developed in the factory hospital, returned with a vengeance. Who was I? How had I come to be? Certainly I couldn't help being different from when I left the campus, but now a new painful, contradictory voice had grown up within me, and between its demands for revengeful action and Mary's silent pressure, I throbbed with guilt and puzzlement. I wanted peace and quiet, tranquility, but was too much to boil inside.
Somewhere beneath the load of the emotion-freezing ice which my life had conditioned my brain to produce, a spot of black anger glowed and threw off. A hot red light of such intensity that had Lord Kelvin known of its existence, he would have had to revise his measurements. A remote explosion had occurred somewhere, perhaps back at Emerson's or that night in Bledsoe's office, and it had caused the ice cap to melt and shift the slightest bit. But that bit, that fraction, was irrevocable. Coming to New York had perhaps been an unconscious attempt to keep the old freezing unit going, but it hadn't worked. Hot water had gone into its coils. Only a drop, perhaps, but that drop was the first wave of deluge. One moment I believed, I was dedicated, willing to lie on the blazing coals, do anything to attain a position on the campus, then snap. It was done with, finished, through. Now there was only the problem of forgetting it. If only all the contradictory voices shouting inside my head would calm down and sing a song in unison. Whatever it was, I wouldn't care as long as the song without dissonance, yes, and avoided the uncertain extremes of the scale.
But there was no relief. I was wild with resentment, but too much under self-control, that frozen virtue, that freezing vice. And the more resentful I became, the more my old urge to make speeches returned. While walking along the streets, words would spill from my lips. In a mumble over which I had little control, I became afraid of what I might do. All things were indeed awash in my mind. I longed for home, and while the ice was melting, to form a flood in which I threatened to drown, I awoke one afternoon to find that my first northern winter had set.
And clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world.